Hello, it's Dr. Cindy again, coming to you with this week's mental health moment. But before I start, I'd like to invite all of you to please use the comment section if you have ideas about other topics you would like me to cover. I have already been asked to do a video on relationships, and we'll probably also be doing ones on communication and parenting. Also, if there are questions about something that I say in a video, please don't hesitate to put those in the comment section as well, and I will do my best to try to clarify for you. So at the risk of scaring some people off, today I would like to talk about feelings. I said in a previous talk that our brains are not necessarily the best avenue for helping us through difficult emotions, and I would like to elaborate on that further. Our brains serve several important functions, but the primary most important role is keeping us alive, and our brains will prioritize that above all other things. One of the ways it does this is by overseeing and regulating the various physiological processes of our bodies, making sure everything is running smoothly and alerting us if there is something that needs to be taken care of. Additionally, our brain is constantly attending to and processing our external surroundings, detecting and warning us about potential threats, and then spurring us to take action in order to stay safe. Now, much of this internal regulating and external processing happens outside of our conscious awareness. We are only clued into what is happening when there is a need that has to be attended to by us. For example, we are not aware on a moment-by-moment basis of food being digested and released from our stomachs. We only notice when our stomach has become empty because that's when our brain signals to us that we're hungry. Similarly, we generally aren't aware of the gradual buildup of urine in our bladder until it reaches that critical level where our brain lets us know that we need to go use the bathroom. So our brain and body constantly work together to take care of our ongoing needs and only alert us if there's some type of action we must take to help with that. And how do we know what action to take? Well, it's based on what we were shown and taught. When we were hungry as children, our parents fed us, and over time we learned to recognize the sensation of hunger in our stomach and to seek out food in response. Over time, we become very proficient at distinguishing these various sensations very quickly and at knowing what to do to take care of them. And each internal need has a matching response that takes care of that need. When we're hungry, we need food. When we're thirsty, we need something to drink. When we're tired, we need to sleep. When we have a full bladder or full bowels, we need to eliminate. So beyond these basic ongoing needs that we learn to respond to, our brain also clues us into more intense situations that are causing us pain. Similar to the learning that takes place around our basic biological needs, how caregivers respond to a child's pain determines what she or he learns about how to handle pain in the future. Ideally, when a child gets hurt, the caregiver comes to his or her aid to check for physical injury that may need attention and to provide soothing and support to ease the child's distress. Both of these are important. And often the emotional comfort brings more relief than the actual physical care. Many parents know about the magical powers that a well-placed kiss and a colorful Band-Aid can have for a child, as it is the experience of being cared for and comforted that makes it better. But this isn't always children's experience. I once overheard a mother complaining that her 5-year-old daughter cried every time she hurt herself. And I thought, geez, if this little girl can't cry when she's hurt, when is it okay for her to cry? I knew a 17-month-old little boy who never cried or showed any reaction at all when he hurt himself. Now, this might sound like a parenting dream come true, but this meant that he had grown accustomed to nobody attending to him. And over time, he stopped looking for people in his environment to respond to him. His foster parents had to go overboard with attention and soothing for this boy whenever he fell or bumped his head or hurt himself, even in a minor way, to teach him that he would be comforted. And it was actually something to celebrate when he started to cry when he was hurt. Now, what about emotional pain? Unfortunately, children don't always experience comforting, compassionate responses to their feelings as they're growing up. Even today, there are societal and cultural pressures against showing emotions. Sometimes adults respond to children's sadness by telling them to stop crying, and peers might call them a crybaby. A child who is upset about a broken toy might find their feelings dismissed or minimized in some way. It's no big deal. It's just a toy. You have plenty of other things to play with. Children may be told that they are too sensitive or thin-skinned, or that they are overreacting when they let on that their feelings are hurt. Many of us got told when we were upset about some kind of mistreatment by a peer, well, then they weren't a true friend anyway. Ouch! That's called adding insult to injury. When children express anger, it is often met by anger from adults. They might be called disrespectful for talking back or having an attitude. They may be sent to their room, lose a privilege, essentially punishing them for how they feel. When children are afraid, adults might tell them to be a big boy or big girl, and other children might tease them for being a scaredy cat. None of these responses meet the child's emotional need for comfort, soothing, and support. Instead, those responses actually increase the child's distress because the child is getting responded to in a negative way. All of these experiences become programmed into our brain as ingrained responses to tough feelings. After enough of these, the takeaway is don't talk, don't cry, and ideally don't feel, because sometimes people get upset with us for having feelings. So just like that little boy in foster care who never cried when he hurt himself, we learn over time to keep our feelings to ourselves and to deal or not deal with them on our own. So fast forward to adulthood. What do we do when we are sad or angry or afraid? The number one answer I get when I ask folks how they handle a challenging feeling is some version of, I try not to think about it. And this often includes distracting themselves in some way to get their mind off of it. Now, can you imagine if we tried to use that as a strategy for hunger or tiredness or a full bladder? It would only be a matter of time before that biological need would overcome any efforts on our part to ignore it. But it's the same for emotions. They are also a bodily function, and it is only a matter of time before those needs will override all of our efforts to ignore or suppress them. I often say that emotions are like little children. They might initially try to get our attention in fairly reasonable ways, but the longer we ignore them, the louder they get. And if we rely on our brain to tell us how to deal with them, the solutions will be based on what we've learned, which means we are likely to respond to our emotions in ways that are unhelpful and may even be hurtful. In this scenario, our brains are like a stressed out, overwhelmed parent, reacting to our feelings as an unwelcome intrusion or annoyance, and something to be shooed away or silenced as quickly as possible. When we haven't learned and developed ways to actually meet our own emotional needs, we resort to strategies that do not match them and therefore do not satisfy them. If you came to me and told me you were hungry and I said, oh, please go ahead, lay down, take a nap, you would think that was very strange because sleeping is not the right response to that physical need. But we're constantly responding that way to our emotional needs with a mismatched and unhelpful solution that doesn't address those needs. Sometimes people will turn to food. We all know about comfort food, right? But food isn't the solution for a feeling. It's the solution for hunger. Others may sleep too much. But again, sleeping is the appropriate response to physical tiredness, not to an emotional need. Sex, alcohol, drugs, shopping, all of these may be used as attempted solutions to difficult feelings, yet none of these will meet the actual need, which is for comfort, compassion, soothing, and support. So, what if we actually treated our emotions like a small child coming to us in distress? What would we do then? Instead of ignoring, scolding, shaming, distracting, silencing, suppressing, or getting angry with them, we would give them our full attention and ask, where does it hurt? What's going on? Then we would focus and listen so we could tend to the hurt. To do that for ourselves, we have to disengage from the brain and connect to our hearts. The heart is like a compassionate parent who is willing to drop everything to attend to the hurting child and to provide the comfort and soothing and support that are appropriate responses to emotional pain. In a previous video, I talked about the importance of mental hygiene, which is essentially making a point of attending to our emotional needs on a daily basis, just like we take care of our physical needs every day. So how might we put that into practice given what I have just discussed? I encourage you to set aside a time each day, maybe in the evening, but not too close to bedtime, when you check in with yourself to see if there are any challenging feelings that may need some TLC. To do this, find a quiet spot, put your hand on your heart, and literally ask yourself, how are you doing? Then wait and see what your heart has to say. If a feeling arises, as it likely will, be it from earlier in the day or earlier in your life, I want you to respond to it as you would to that small child coming to you in pain. And that is with empathy, compassion, care, and concern. You might say, "Oh, it really hurts," or "You feel so sad." "You're really angry." "I'm so sorry that happened to you." "This feels so scary." "I'm right here." "It's going to be okay." "I hear you." Use whatever words you find soothing and comforting for you. You may want to write them down and have them accessible when you need them. And ideally, you would use this technique not just as a routine daily practice in the evening, but also at any time throughout the day that you are having some type of difficult emotional reaction to something. And if you can't find the words in that moment, or if your brain tries to hijack the process by bringing in unhelpful words from previous experiences, keep it simple. Connect to your heart, take some deep breaths, just tell yourself it's okay. Shh, it's okay. It's okay. Now, I know this all sounds very foreign and probably incredibly challenging to consider doing. But the only helpful and appropriate response to emotional distress is care, compassion, comfort, and support. If you have ever in your life done that for someone else, then you already know everything you need to know in order to also do that for yourself. And if you have never done that for anyone else, I invite you to use this opportunity to learn how to do that now. We all deserve to have our feelings acknowledged and validated and soothed and supported. And that starts with every one of us. So take care and remember, tend to the hurt. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week.